Hi everyone, Cindy here, Create Your Own Lucky Love. I hope everybody is having a great Sunday and you're enjoying the day. It's not normal sunny California weather, but all good. Anyway, I just wanted to kind of jump in here. I apologize for my lateness. I was talking to a wonderful lady on the phone, and we were covering a lot of information. So I, for one, wanted to, if you guys are on, just go ahead, give me a thumbs up, give me a heart. I don't know if you guys got a chance to listen to today's special guest, Iris Ben-Ruby, and we talked about attachment styles and what that is, what that looks like. And, we all have, if you haven't had a chance to listen to it, I highly recommend it. We all have a way that we attach and show up in relationship. And I was just speaking actually to a couple different ladies today around this. In fact, the way we learn how to show up in relationship, hi, how are you? I haven't seen you on here lately. I know it's usually during a time where you can't always get on, so I'm happy you're here, Hasim. At any rate, we have a way that we show up in relationships, and it's interesting. It's usually, research shows that from the time we're in our mother's womb to about the time we're 5 years old, some research says 8, is the way that we actually learn how to show up in our adult relationships. So that's male, female, or, whatever origin you choose, in fact. And so we have certain stories that we've told ourselves. We have certain things that we learn how to do, and we have learned behaviors. So we talk about an anxious avoidance. Actually, that is an attachment style. An anxious attachment style where, maybe when, excuse me, my nose itches. Maybe when you're dating someone, or, in a relationship or in relationship development, you get anxious. You almost feel this sensation of not being able to control yourself. So maybe you call a lot. Maybe you, when you feel a certain amount of attachment, and usually for women, that's after we've had sex. And so that's why I recommend not having sex until being committed. And I have a strong point of view around that. I have a strong point of view that men should be the ones to pursue a woman. So maybe you've got an anxious attachment style, or you really like someone. You go out on a couple dates with them, and you can't help yourself but to reach out to them when they haven't reached out to you. So there's all kinds of stuff, and then it gets confused, and then our society on top of it all has really confused us with how do we show up, and who are we, and how do we be as a woman in relationships? So in talking about attachment styles, so there's also the avoidant. The avoidant is, I'm going to take my toys and leave if I don't like what's happening here, which is a pushback. It pushes people away, right? A lot of men are avoidant. There are a lot of women that are avoidant too. And we can actually be an anxious person, and depending on how the person shows up in relationship, we could become avoidant. We could feel engulfed in relationship. We can feel engulfed in relationship development, therefore not knowing how to really be our best selves and what that is, because those are natural triggers that can go into that saboteur mode because it's self-protection. It's what we're used to. Maybe you had a mother that was, really really demanding and needy. And so you feel engulfed in relationships. So there's maybe a tendency for you to want to push people away. And, or if you get triggered in some manner, when a man pulls away, perhaps you get anxious and start to think, wait a second, did I do something wrong? So you start to give, which the trajectory of that is it pushes a man further away. And men do naturally pull back in relationship, and it's also understanding that. I was just talking to someone else. I was talking to a lovely woman, and I said, well, look, we can actually turn a prince into a frog. And if we don't know how to communicate effectively with a man, and I'm talking about like naturally with a healthy man, we can be talking to him like a big hairy woman. And Alison Armstrong always says that, and I think it's so funny. But it's true. And thinking that they relate to us in a way that a woman would, or have the same values that a woman has, or attaches herself the same way. And men don't attach through sex. Hear that. They do it for about 24 hours. But it's not the way to actually bring in a partnership if that's what you're looking for. If you're not looking for that, I have no idea why you'd be even listening to my Facebook lives, frankly. And if you're looking for the man to lead, you can still be a powerhouse of a woman in your business life, but you want a man that leads, and you have that safe place to land. And yes, you can still be the woman where we're nurturing, but he needs to be the one to initiate, which is how you are in a relationship where you feel cherished and adored. So these attachment styles, when you understand attachment, when Iris and I were talking today, Iris says that there's a study out there that shows that approximately 50% of the population is secure in their attachment style. I was trying to do quotations, but that came across kind of funny. Anyway, and there's deeper studies that show opposite. It's about maybe 10% of the population that is secure in their attachment style, which is, they feel a healthy sense of self. They know that they're loved, they love themselves. And that may seem pretty basic, but they don't get too anxious if, when a partner doesn't, isn't doing something necessarily. They still have a value within themselves that says, it's going to be okay. Like, I know that person's there. They probably just got busy. They love me and whatnot. And then of course, like I talked about, the anxious style is we can get a little anxiety through being triggered. Now, even a secure person can be triggered. And just so you know, you can get to, if you're anxious avoidant, or if you're avoidant, you can become secure. And there's a book around that, the attachment styles, by Amir, A-M as in Mary, I-R, and his last name is Levine, L as in Larry, E as in Edward, V as in Victor, I, N as in Nancy, E, Amir Levine, and he writes a book called Attached. You can get that on Audible too. That's really good. There's another one called Wired for Love, which is another great one, because it helps you understand who people are, how they show up in relationship, and really how that can trigger you, so to speak. And I particularly loved the conversation that was aired today with Iris and I, because it talks about real stuff and, real understandings of attachment, and attachment all stems from hi, sorry you guys, I'm having notifications come up. All stems from our childhood. I mean, you could have an anxious attachment style or avoidant or anxious avoidant based on the way that you were raised, and your parents may be really amazing people and well-intentioned individuals. However, they did what they could with what they knew. And maybe you had a father that worked a lot. Maybe your mother worked a lot. Maybe, so we all have attachment styles based on from very baseline levels of, even how much you were held as a child, as a baby, from 0 to 6 months, how much you were loved on, cared for, if your needs were regularly being met. The chances of you having a secure attachment style as you're larger, or as you're a larger person, a bigger person. Hi, somebody, I can do, oh yeah. Yep. I'll get into that in a second. That's a good one, Nikki. And so where I was going with that is and our parents only know what they had the knowledge of, right? So we can't blame our parents for things that they didn't know. Or maybe both of your parents worked really hard. Maybe you were immigrants. I mean, who knows? And there was a sense of, responsibility, or you had a lot of demands on you as a child. And that can create that avoidance too, because there's so much that was expected of you. It was really, really hard to like be that person. And maybe you felt like, oh, I have to be perfect. I've always got to be there for my mom, or I've got to, be there for my parents. Maybe they're farmers. I mean, who knows? It's just, and that can cause that avoidance, because it's like, it's too much. So it does depend on the other person too, and how they behave. So if someone's showing up as anxious, it could be disguised that they're actually avoidant too. And I know that's crazy, especially when it comes to a man. Men are more likely to be avoidant because men innately feel a sense of responsibility when it comes to family, when it comes to even their mother. So if their mother was demanding, overbearing, all these things, he may have a more avoidant style, but show up initially as anxious. It's interesting. And it also then depends on how you respond to them, because if you can show up in, if you're a calmer person amongst an anxious person, and you can actually give them a little comfort. And part of that too is communication. So if you know that you yourself has a more anxious style, I'm just using that one for example, because I think it's the more common one, especially amongst women. If you yourself know that you have a more anxious style when it comes to attachment, then what you can do is actually communicate that with your partner, because you're developing a healthy partnership here. And the right partner for you is going to want to make you happy, because men want to make us happy. They really do. And it's giving him the space and the opportunity to do so. So it would make me really happy if you blank, if I heard something every day, and that makes me feel really safe and secure in our relationship, assuming you're in a relationship. And, you guys should really look at the rest of these Facebook Lives if you haven't already, from beginning to end, because I do address a lot of these things too. But attachment is a really big deal, and it's something to understand. And when you understand it, it's easier to develop healthier partnerships. And especially, even a man, when he understands, oh, maybe my tendency is to be more avoidant because my mother expected a lot out of me and I feel engulfed in that and I just want to hide. Somebody told me this story. I thought it was really cute. I'm trying to remember who that was, but I'll tell you the story. So this woman was married. Her husband is a surgeon, and they've been married for quite some time. And she had a more anxious attachment style. She was actually quite hyper anxious. And he loved her, and he knew that, and he understood. And so he would literally, and she felt good if she heard from him once a day, because sometimes as surgeons you have to work really long shifts. And so he would literally, and he didn't have a cell phone on during a 5-hour surgery. So as soon as he would step out of a surgery, he'd have the nurse hand his cell phone. That was a pre-written note that just simply said, "I love you, see you later." And she was always like, that makes me so happy. And he did that every day. And she even knew it was pre-written, pre-done, but she knew that made her feel good and more secure in their partnership. So he was willing to do it. And when you communicate in a healthy manner with men, they're inspired to want to do these things. They're inspired to do the things that make you happy. The right man for you. Now the wrong one, you can try to inspire him all day long. He's not going to do it. Or if he's not healthy and in a healthy place to be that person. So there's ways to decipher that piece too. But I just wanted to check in with everyone. I will see you guys tomorrow unless you have any questions, but please feel free to post your questions, your comments below so that I can go through and answer them. And I go through and answer each and every one of these myself. I can, dig deeper with you. I'm really happy to help. I want to see you guys just really rock out 2017 and achieve your goals in every area, not just your love life, but I think this is, in my opinion, the most important area of life, our relationships and having those deep, connected, and grounded, loving partnerships. So I am really happy to see each and every one of you beautiful, shining faces on here. And again, post your questions, post your comments below and how I can help you. I will be here every single day for you, even if it's just a 5 or 10 minute check-in. Yeah, I hear you. I've been there. It's really about letting go of control. Someone just brought up, I want to be the fixer, make things better. And as women, we're nurturers, so it's natural for us to want to. And secondly, it's, if you're trying to fix something, it's a control thing, but ultimately it doesn't get you what you want. If you give it the space and let him lead, he will ultimately feel inspired to do so if he's the right guy for you. But I recommend dating multiple people so you keep yourself busy and less anxious around being the fixer. Yeah. Being afraid to put yourself out there because it's been a long time is natural. And, and I can answer that below too. It's about being brave. This area is about being brave and learning how to be vulnerable and learning to know that not everything's going to work out the way we want it to, but you can really create abundance. And it's hard to do it alone. I recommend us sitting down and talking, hiring a coach, really getting a plan together, because there's a reason why it's been a long time. Maybe you were married and things didn't work out, or maybe you've just kept yourself safe and buried in work because that was the easier thing to do. And that's where you feel the best. So there are so many things that, and once you start getting in the practice of it and opening yourself up to the possibilities, it's like it comes to you because you're open to receiving and being receptive of bringing in what it is your heart desires. So anyways, I'm sending you guys lots of love, hugs and kisses, lots of hearts, and have a wonderful, blessed, and I will see you guys all very, very, very soon, tomorrow. Bye, everyone.